I think that one thing God has taught us through this is that the gathering of our congregation is so important to people. It's not just important to the work of the church, it's important to the people. People have really missed seeing their friends, seeing their brothers and sisters in Christ, worshiping together corporately, in the room together. I think people have really missed that. I hope that because of that, it will cause people when they come back to have a new appreciation for gathering and being together. Steve Livengood, originally from North Carolina, moved here to Tennessee in 2010, and I'm the senior pastor of First Baptist Church of Columbia. When the pandemic first started, of course, information was trickling in kind of at a slow pace to begin with, and so my first thoughts were, well, it probably won't affect Columbia. I'm thinking, okay, that's something in China. It'll eventually get to a few of the states in the United States, but it'll be a while before it gets to our area or affects our area in any way. And then it seemed like over just a couple of weeks of time, it really changed quickly. And we started hearing things about what might be going on in Tennessee, especially in the Nashville area, and how it was probably going to trickle down into some of the counties close to us. And then as it went on, I started thinking about, oh my goodness, this might actually come to the point where it affects us as a church. And so at that point, I started looking at articles, reading and listening to what other people were talking about how it might affect the church, and starting to just have some early thoughts about what I might be having to face as a pastor. The initial step was thinking, we as pastors started talking about, okay, offering plates, we need to find a different way to do the offering. So we were already planning for the next Sunday to change the way we were doing the offering. And then we started thinking about Lord's Supper and how we might do that differently, and because we had one coming up pretty soon. And so we already started thinking about that. I had already, when we first learned about the virus and it was spreading, we'd already done away with kind of the handshake type thing. And there were lots of other flu viruses going around too, so we just kind of quit doing a handshake. So that was already in place. But we had planned on making those changes the very next Sunday. And then on a Friday, and it was very late in the week when this all came, but on a Friday, it started trickling out about the closed down, shut down, stay at home, the encouragement to stay at home. And my thoughts during that time, it began to weigh on me. What does the community think about the church and our role in the community? And it really started to burden me that the community's watching, especially First Baptist Church, because of the size of the church, that the community's watching this and watching to see what we're going to do, and how will it affect the community if everybody else is staying at home and we're not. And that really weighed heavily on that first Sunday that we closed down. For me, the emotional side of making a decision like that, a lot of it has to do with your own personality. My personality is that I like to weigh things out, chew on it a little bit, think through it. I like to take some time. Well, my back was a little bit against the wall on do I do this? Because if I do, if we decide to close, I've got to decide that immediately. We've got to get the word out that we're doing that. So it was hard for me because I had to move a little quicker on the decision than I typically would. But also my personality, I kind of let things beat me up a little bit. Those that disagree with what we decide, I'm kind of bothered by that a little bit and worry about that a little bit. That's part of just who I am as a person. So I was having the emotions, well, if we do this, what are these people going to think? And what are these people going to think? And that made it a little harder. In a business, you have employees that are working for you. Your entire organization is made up of employees. And when you tell them you're going to stay home, it's a boss telling a group of people you're staying home. Here's what we're doing. They they pretty much accept that. They may not like it, but they accept it. And and then they're hoping to come back soon. Maybe some of them are being paid. Even in the meantime, they're being paid. But the difference in a church is that whatever decisions you make, it's a congregation that's not getting paid to come. They're not employees coming to your church and getting paid to come. So they're basing their decisions on something entirely different than the business world, the employee might be basing a decision on. So our decisions as a church, it may cause some church members to be upset, and they may make changes in their spiritual life. They may make changes where they go. We had hours and hours and hours of meetings with our whole pastoral staff. We got input from different leaders in the community, input from other people in the church, some too, and we came up with a phased plan to reopen. It was kind of a four-phase plan. Initially, it was based on the recommendations that were being made kind of nationally of, the 10-person rule, the 50-person rule, and all of that. And all of those decisions going into those phases were based on our particular church setting, the complications that we have. And honestly, some of those maybe are more of a problem for a larger church than for a smaller church. There are things that are difficult. We started weighing out okay, well, how would we do social distancing in a classroom? How would we do social distancing in the worship center? And how would we get volunteers to help clean in between services and things like that? We started weighing through all the complications behind reopening and thinking, well, what would we do with 10 people or less gathering? What would we do with 50 or less gathering? And when would we be able to do what? So that went into our decision of the phases. The complicated part of that is it seems like over a period of time, the federal government kind of put it more in the hands of the governors of the states. Information began to change. From the very beginning, we said this is all subject to change. And now there's new information even out now that's affecting how we might move forward. So already we're looking at probably some changes that are going to come up next week into our plans, and we'll be announcing them to the church very soon. I think that even though we've been social distancing and even though we've been, quote, locked in at times, ministry's still been happening. I've heard stories about lots of church people reaching out to people. Our church has continued to do ministry during this time, but I hope it will continue that passion to help the needy, because they've seen so many people with needs right now. I hope that will stay a fact as we move forward. We as a church are here for the community. We're part of the community, but we're also here to minister to the community. We love our community. And so we want to do what's best for our community. And I know there's a lot of debate about what that is, and people have varying opinions, but I just would like our community to know that in the decisions we're making as a church, we're considering the community and what's best for the community. We're thinking about those who've been out of work and how this has affected them, because I think, how this has affected you, it depends on your perspective and your context. People who are out of work might look at things differently than people who are working. People who are vulnerable might be looking at it differently from people who are less vulnerable. So we're taking all of our community's needs into consideration in our own plans. And we love our community, and we just want to be there and be a ministry to our community. So we're praying for the community and thinking about the community and what we do.